Go again. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the Part 2 Book Club's podcast. Today we are going to be discussing something that's really important to me, and I think as we all enter our 40s, is becoming ever increasingly important, and that is mental health, in particular perimenopausal 40-year-old mental health. So basically, I might start by just saying, like, how's everyone's heads today? how is everyone's mental agility this evening and morning?
Mental agility.
Mentally fit, yeah.
Mine's actually not very good at the moment, if I'm very honest. I've just come back from obviously a month with you guys in the UK, and got the jet lag and all that stuff, and also the post-holiday blues, which is pretty normal. But then I'm also starting a job hunt, which I haven't done I've technically been in market for like 10, 15 years, I think.
I'm similar actually, because 3 weeks away, or less than 3 weeks away from finishing up my job, and like you, Z, I've not been not working for a very long time, and it's like a whole mixture of emotions. Like I feel a bit sad, quite guilty, relieved. I'm actually, also looking forward to some time off, but there's so much on my mind. Normally you're juggling a lot of things, but then it's like I got to do the handover and this and that, and Millie's passport, I just looked at it needs renewing, so that level of overwhelm has just skyrocketed this week. And then obviously, like you said, with the perimenopause, I went to the doctor last week, I think it was, to just do a pill check, and then it was a nurse, and she was like, oh, you know what, you don't need to go, you shouldn't be going through this, like you need to go and see the doctor, we'll get you booked in. And so that's another thing that's not really worrying me, but it's just an additional thing to add to the very, very long list of things. So yeah, it's heavy. It's all a bit heavy at the moment.
Sounds.
And I said to Leon, I was like, I'm just looking forward to sleeping and maybe, exercising. Like that would be great. Just I couldn't fit it in today. It's ridiculous, actually, to not even be able to go out for a half-hour walk. But I couldn't. Yeah.
Hugs.
Yeah, hugs.
And Shana, you mentally sound?
I'm okay. This week we started, so 3 of us at work are doing software testing for the next 3 weeks, and we started that yesterday. And like I volunteer for it every time, because I always feel like it's a nice break from the normal side of the job, the bit that weighs a bit heavy. And like retailers can be a lot, and stores can be a lot, and just all of that can be a lot. And sometimes it's nice to just have a break, do something that's doesn't require too much thought, because I'm literally testing software, I'm testing catalogs for new update. So yeah, I'm somewhere in between good and bad. I'm somewhere in the middle today. But the weather was amazing today.
It really was.
Great.
It was sunny. It was almost warm. I took
makes such a difference.
Walk, and huge difference just getting out in the vitamin D.
I never used to think that either, and I'm 100% converted to like the other side of wanting to be outdoors and wanting to be in sunshine. And
you were the rain girl.
I still love the rain. I think you really love the sun. But it's funny. So someone said to me the other day, right at the end of us spending some time together, and they just said sort of like, so how's your mental health? And I went, I think, Zara, you say this too, where as I've gotten into 40, I really can't be bothered to lie. And and I was like, shaky at best. And they sort of like looked at me like, didn't really know what to do with it. Like, have a good day, talk to you later.
Okay, cool, bye.
Okay, bye.
I'm scraping by,
hanging on for dear life.
How is your mental health, Sarah?
It's just shaky at best.
Yeah.
I think I was quite honest.
Do you know what's funny?
Yeah.
A story that just yesterday. So I was just telling Sian before I went to the doctor yesterday, because I was like, something's broken. Like But I get there and this lady comes over and she's like, "Oh, can I help you?" And I was like, no, she said, "Oh, how are you going?" And I was like, I'm just not okay. I was like, I'm so tired. And I was like, I'm just broken. I was like, I'm in perimenopause. Everything hurts. Now I've got vitamin magnesium deficiency. This lady was literally like, and then as it's coming out of my mouth, I was like, I should probably stop. And in my brain, I'm going like, stop, Zara, stop talking. Like, you don't know this person. So I finished my ramble of like, I'm broken and I'm old and I'm this and I'm that. And then she goes, yeah, I feel you. She's like, I've been in it now for a year. She's like, I've got and then she starts reeling her symptoms off. And I was like, oh, sister. And then
Sharing is caring.
after I paid for the vitamins, I just gave her this big hug. I was like, that was a real, like, thanks for just sharing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know you from Adam, but you know, we're all just muddling on through it.
Yeah,
it's good to let it out, I think, especially, yeah, like you're saying, being more honest and being able to talk to people about it instead of being all British and keeping it. And it's also really bad for you, for your body to keep the stress inside, as we know science tells us. It's better to let it all out.
Do you think, though, that there is an issue that we actually haven't been equipped? Like, so we're getting more and more open with our mental health conversations, right? But I sometimes don't feel equipped to know what to do when someone tells me there's something wrong. Does that make any sense? So like,
yeah, definitely.
That lady yesterday, that conversation was good because she just started talking about her experiences. And so we had that shared reality. But if I was fine and someone said that to me, I think my gut reaction is always to be like, oh, it'll be okay. Like, would you like a hug? I don't know if, what do you guys think?
I think it depends. So in my job, I do a lot of the signposting. So in HR, and people come to me with all sorts, especially over lockdown. So, but then it's different if you're in work versus if you're on the street. But I think a lot of the advice is that, not to say like not necessarily that you understand, but it's more to be able to let that person sit with their feelings and just be there to support most of the time. And also if it's a stranger, it's like, if you don't know the person, you know, it's difficult to,
or if you only know them in like
genuinely like
an
of course
acquaintance.
you could be like, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I don't know, I can't say that I've ever felt. And then it's not about sharing how your experiences. I think it's just like giving them that space to go, you know what, let it out. Like, yeah, let it out. I'll listen, and being a good listener more than anything else.
I think almost it's easier to do that maybe necessarily like with a stranger sometimes than say someone you kind of
True.
like we all sort of put on
I see what you mean. You might not
going,
see them
you know,
again.
you go on the school run, you know, you might have had the worst morning in the world with the kids, you know, been screaming and shouting at them and on the brink of tears on the drive. This has never happened, by the way. And you get to school and you see someone you semi-know who's probably putting on the same face as you, and you're like, how you doing? Great. You great. Like, if I was to maybe open up to that
Superficial.
kind of stranger, like, it would probably be quite awkward for both of us.
Like, do you want to? That's the thing. Like, I don't know if I'd really want to share that with, I mean, I'd happy if a stranger was there and they were having a breakdown, or not even a breakdown, but just in a really overwhelmed. Like, you know, you see mums, and I've been there in supermarkets with the child, and they're just like, oh my God, somebody just ground swallow me up. And you do, I have said, like, you know, it's okay, and don't worry, no one, you know, you'll be fine, you're doing fine. We've all been through it. Like, you know, we've all the mums have been through it. But I think there's some, like, the human element is obviously helpful, but I don't know if I necessarily would want a stranger. I don't know. I wouldn't want to tell a stranger all my feelings unless I was paying for that help. Caveat.
Quite happy to pay someone to listen to me. But I think the first one that I was really interested in was, have you experienced any changes in your mental health as you've moved into your 40s?
I definitely have. I think I'm actually, full disclosure, I actually take medication, which I haven't done for a very, very long time, but I think the overwhelm of the start of perimenopause, the milestone of 40, which hit me quite hard moving out of my 30s. The leaving a job, the moving, the child, the everything, I think just all caught up with me. And it got to the point where I needed something that worked quicker than therapy. But I think I genuinely did not feel equipped for that milestone. Like, I don't think I felt, no, I know I didn't feel like I had all the tools to truly like be comfortable with that milestone, and then all the changes that come with that. And I think what's interesting is it's knocked my confidence significantly. Like, I was quite a confident person. Even when I was like a bigger person, I was a super confident person. And I definitely feel like that's been really knocked.
Yeah. I think it was about this time or just earlier last year when a lot of the symptoms, you know, I know I joke about self-diagnosing, but I'm fairly certain that I'm going through perimenopause. And even though the lady last week was like, "Well, you're quite young," like, and I said to her, it can start, you know, I said, you know, it can start from your mid-30s and last for about 10 years. She's like, yes, I know. So I was like, I'm not young. And if I go through the checklist of 43 symptoms, I think I tick about 40 of those. So, you know, you can say maybe it's something else, or actually, let's be honest, it is most likely, but it can go dip in and out. And, you know, it's all hormone based. And I think before, and last year, what hit me, like what Zara was saying, is my confidence was so low. Things like going and speaking on a panel, I was absolutely petrified. I almost to the point, and I said to Leon, I was like, I can't do it. It was at, and normally I would just go off and, you know, do these things. I'd happily, you know, I could be a bit nervous, but I was so worked up about it. And it was like, I felt sick having to go on stage. I was like, oh my God, what if I can't remember anything? What if people ask me a question, I don't know how to answer it? I've never felt so unconfident in my ability to do anything, to be honest. And there's just been waves of that. And I think and weirdly, like coming into 41, I felt, because 40, I was like, oh, big party, big milestone. So I was trying to, you know, the whole, like you said, Zara, about like going into it, like 40's the new 30. I think in my mind, I was like, I've just got to have that mindset. And then coming to 41, I actually got a message from Amy, who, you know, Phil's Leon's best friend. Amy was like, sent a card, and she said, yep, it's going to be a little bit depressing because no one's going to big up your 41st birthday. I was like, dude, you've hit the nail on the head. This is like downhill from now. But yeah, it's funny, but I think when, I could completely have misdiagnosed myself, but what I quite like is the fact that, you know, right now I've had a migraine for about a week, and I've never really even had a migraine. So to experience it for a week and to think it's not linked to my body going through changes, I think it's just like ridiculous. And I think it's also a little bit ridiculous that we're not, like, women aren't educated, aren't helped enough in the workplace as well. You know, is it like, if you're at work, and, you know, this is when a lot of women would be looking to progress in their career. And it's like, well, if they're so going through this and they're so feeling so like low in self-confidence, like what are we doing to help them?
And Shani,
I don't think my confidence has been knocked. Perhaps it has, and it's just in small places that I don't notice it so much, or I don't remember because I've got a crap memory anyway. And 40 hasn't bothered me, but the physical symptoms. So I think I said to you guys, it was probably about a year ago, so not long after I actually turned 40, I was like, I think this is it. Like, my periods had changed, and I was always like clockwork, and my periods had changed. I was having night sweats, like to the point where I was waking up basically drenched in sweat. And it would be like in the middle of winter, the heating's not on, I'm waking up just drenched in sweat for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And then all of those things stopped, and my period went back to normal, and I stopped getting the night sweats, and I was like, huh, that's weird. But then, like, little bits have started coming back. Like this week I've had night sweats, and it's not been warm.
Same.
by any means. But this week I've been properly having night sweats. And just all of those little physical things just kind of just nick away at your mental health, don't they? Just dig, 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 dig. And yeah, it's just small little nicks that just start to grate on you. And yeah, that kind of thing. For me, it's been more of a physical
than mental.
Than strictly mental. But the physical always affects the mental. So it's just started from the opposite end for me and like wormed its way back up to the brain. So yeah, for me, it's been more physical things, and like I walk up the stairs, my knees click every step, every single step. Today, took Roman for a walk. My left calf, I had to stretch it out several times. I don't know why. I haven't done anything. But my calf was gonna seize. Just stupid little aging things. And I'm like, emotionally, I am not old enough to be this old.
I thought you were going to say emotionally I'm sound, and I was like, I know you are.
No.
I'm doing this to find out your secret.
Yeah.
Emotionally, I am not old enough to be this old. My body is older than my brain.
Yeah.
I do want to study Sean though.
I do too.
Yeah.
I desperately do.
Same.
In that
Patient
Sean
zero.
is, yes. Sean's probably the friend that like never seems to have waves.
No.
You always seem to just be really calm
Pretty low.
and happy and like just content in your life and like
mentally you're like just
I am quite level. I take things in my stride for the most part, and I let things go quite easily. But Pete is the complete opposite of me, and I don't know if maybe some of me is this way to counteract him, because we've been together for so long.
Yeah.
Like, have I just learned to take things in my stride because Pete really, really doesn't? Like,
yin and yang.
I don't know. I feel like you've always been like
I
that.
don't
I
know.
think even
You haven't
before
always
Pete.
been. I don't think in your
always been
20s
like
you
that.
were that sane.
Oh.
No, I'm joking. No, you weren't.
No, I was a nightmare.
You were a bloody nightmare.
Nightmare teenager for sure.
But you were always quite balanced though. Like, even though you're a nightmare teenager, like to have a conversation with you, it was always fairly rational. You know, there wasn't the sort of like peaks and troughs of, say, someone else I might talk to on here, myself included.
I don't know. I'm just wired this way.
It's a good way to be wired.
But I think if I can offer an observation on Sean, patient zero,
I'll be.
I feel that you don't take on more. You know your limit, if that makes sense, and you don't push yourself above that. Whereas I think the rest of us do.
I'm
So
not
I'll
particularly
boundaries, Alicia.
ambitious.
Yeah.
Sean, no, but I think Sean
Even that, yeah.
is the only one of us who ever actually consistently set a boundary and then
Yeah.
stuck to it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to go there. I don't want to come to that thing.
I don't want to go clubbing.
I'm tired. I don't want to go clubbing.
What?
And I want to stay home and read a book. And like,
Yeah.
again, Sean, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like you are completely like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to apologize for that. Like, this is what I want to do, and this is what I'll do.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's also got something to do with being an only child. Like,
Maybe.
I wonder if
I
you
was never
you're
pushed to do something I didn't want to do by a sibling, say, or by a parent who was doing something for a sibling, and I had to like do something else. Yeah, I
but
don't
also
know.
I don't think you don't take on any of the emotional baggage of siblings. And I feel like, not that there's a lot of baggage with my sibling, but like I have had to play like a couple of roles with him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I don't know if I've ever set clear boundaries and stuck to them the way you have, because you didn't necessarily have to bend for the sibling.
I didn't have to
when
bend.
you were younger.
No, like my dad was my backup for absolutely everything, even with my mum. So like if my mum told me off for something and I didn't like that she was telling me off for something, I'd go running to my faithful father.
Yeah.
Who would then be all, Ivy, leave her alone. She's perfect.
You are perfect.
Yeah. You are.
But no, that's a really good point. Like I'd never had a sibling. I mean, I do have a half brother. We didn't grow up together. We didn't even live in the same country until I moved to the UK. And even then, like, we're miles and miles and miles apart. When he would come and visit, he was like a fun uncle. That was the kind of emotional connection we had, like fun uncle, niece, not brother, sister. So there was never that dynamic. So yeah, it's an interesting observation, actually. I've never thought about it. Obviously, having never had a sibling, I've never thought about it. But yeah, looking at you guys and your siblings, you do play different roles and you have played different roles with them over the years.
Building upon what you said, Leash, earlier, the next question I had for you guys, that as more women talk openly about going through the perimenopause, do you think the way society view or treat women in this age group has changed or is changing? Leash?
Not enough. I think women talk about it a lot more, and women are more open about perimenopause. I definitely don't, and I think actually, well, in the UK, in the workplace, there is a bit more recognition about it, or discussion around, what do you do for women who are not just going through perimenopause, but menopause, and just the older generation, so men and women. I think there is even more pressure on women to do everything. Well, that's how I feel. I feel like I need to, I'm a working mum, but not just a working mum, like, have a good job, be paid as well, if not better than my other half, plus have the kids, and actually not just the kids, but it's the technology affecting the children and their mental health. And what about schools? And what about nutrition? And what about exercise? And all these things that then fall on your plate as the primary caregiver, on top of then you having to look after yourself. I don't think society as a whole really, because we live in a patriarchy, we do not really, and I'm not going to go down, that's a whole other podcast, but
another podcast.
I don't, and I'm not necessarily angry about it. I think, but I think you think it's 2024, we should be more advanced, but we're not there. I don't even think we're close to being there. I think there is more openness within women going through it, which in itself is a really positive thing.
All I was going to say is, on that note, I obviously work from home. I make my own hours. If I'm ill, I still work, or I figure out something to do. Like, would you guys have either still in the workplace or have recently left, would you feel comfortable phoning in perimenopausal, phoning in sick and being like, it's like, I'm having a bad day with hormones?
But I think it depends on who you work for, and how understanding they are and how much they actually care.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I am still in the workplace, but I do also work from home, but I work for a corporate company. And although my immediate boss is a man, he's a very understanding guy. He's been really great. Like, when I was going through all the IVF stuff, he was really great about me having time off for that, and like not having to book holidays, even if I need to take a whole day out, that kind of thing. So he's really great, but I would still not feel comfortable phoning in to say, I need today off because I'm having hormonal issues.
Yeah.
Whatever they may be, because even as an understanding guy, I think he'd be a bit like, what do you mean hormonal issues? Like, how bad can that be? But I don't think he would say that to me. I think he'd be like, oh yeah, no, take your time, do whatever. But then I feel like in the background, he would be thinking, what hormonal issues? Like, how bad can it be for real? Because men don't get it. Like, it's not talked about enough. Yeah. Like, even periods have only just been really started to be talked about in public recently, if you think about it. And a lot of guys, especially in our age group and the generations above, are still like queasy about it. They think it's gross. They don't want to know.
Gross.
Yeah, but it's like the most natural thing. We don't get a choice.
No,
we do not get a choice. but we're not allowed to talk about something that happens to us every single month from the age of 12, 13 until 50 something. It just doesn't make any sense. But because, as Alicia said, we live in a patriarchy, society has been dictated over the years that you don't talk about.
I do think it depends on who your boss is, and I do think it depends on the company as well. There's lots of companies, particularly in Australia, that are doing lots of good stuff in this space, trying to open up that conversation, offering women additional leave for certain things. We certainly implemented IVF leave or fertility leave, I guess you could call it. We also implemented pregnancy loss leave and things like that. So if you lose pregnancy early on, having an extra week of leave if you need to, both male and female, by the way, like not just for females. However, the thing that's hit me is, and Alicia sort of said this a bit before, around this age is when starting to really want to push forward in their career. Like a lot of women will have had the kids are at school, they're now back to like something that resembles the ability to put the foot down on their own personal career, having taken, probably a bit of a step back so that they could, nurture and raise children to school age. And this is exactly when confidence is knocked, anxiety appears, you second guess yourself, you become brain fog, you can't sleep. The sleep thing is sleep deprivation, and then walking into a boardroom and having to have very serious and significant conversations when you are exhausted, you have brain fog, your confidence is rocked. You're probably, if you're anything like me, you're also sitting on a fairly shit ton of anxiety. Could I have had those conversations with my colleagues? No. They wouldn't have known, because they were all men, bar one woman. I did exit myself from certain conversations where I felt unsafe because my emotional regulation, I wasn't able to regulate, and I could feel myself starting to, in one instance, start to close down, shut down, and like stop participating. And in the other, I started to get angry. And actually I wasn't regulating myself, and I could feel myself losing control of that, which is another symptom that I have quite often, is I either shut down or I like detonate. So no. And I think the mansplaining, the lip service, oh, we're here for you, or what, is there anything we can do? You could actually stop talking for just 2 seconds while I collect my thoughts and actually participate in this conversation, because actually I just need a minute to think about what we're talking about, because my brain is like is struggling with a bunch of hormones and like all of that. But because men fundamentally do not understand and cannot understand.
It's hard, but like, what can we? I think things like this is something that we can do, trying to talk about it more, trying to be more open with it. I mean, we're here putting ourselves out onto social media saying we're 4 women at 40, 41. I'm still 40. Very important. So at 40 and 41. Do you know what I mean? Or what I'm trying to say is that I think by, even as uncomfortable as it is, being more vocal and having those uncomfortable moments where you do tell someone, oh, I'm having a really bad day. I've just yelled at my kids in the car for very little. Even though it's uncomfortable and awful, like talking about that more over time. And maybe I'm thinking to like, our daughters when they're, when they're 40 and thinking actually what we're doing now could, and we're just 4 women, like it's a tiny group, but in opening it up, hopefully it reaches more people and more people start being more open and honest, and you think then we're looking 20 to 30 years later that maybe it will be normal. Maybe they will be able to phone into their boss and go, brain fog day, and I'll just take it as one of their hormonal days. Or
I do think absolutely, but I think the really critical point is kind of what Zara was saying, and what we were all saying before, is men, unfortunately, who don't,
I don't
who
want to hate men on this.
do not, but no, it's just the lack of understanding and even probably lack of empathy. And I can guarantee you, if any, in lots of different companies, if a very senior woman in a group of men said, do you know what, guys, I'm just, it's brain fog, they'll be thinking about how to exit that person, most likely.
But if we keep being loud about this, I guess, is what I'm
Oh
saying.
yeah, totally. And genuinely need more senior women running the companies, running the countries. And I'm not even, and I said to Leon, like, I'm not even kidding, like, it's no joke. You have to shift the dial that much in order for that amount of change, because it boils down to legislations and policies, and it's okay for that part of the population. I don't hate men, I love men, but I think it's okay for them, so why would they want it to change,
Exactly.
I could not agree more. And I think you hit the nail on the head for me, Alicia, which is we need more men to participate in the conversation and to want to understand what it is that women are going through, and to want to genuinely get it and to acknowledge it. Because I think for too long, and I mean, I don't know a male in my life who hasn't said something along the lines of, like, time of the month, she's just a bit hormonal. I am a bit hormonal, mate. And I need you to acknowledge that is a real and genuine condition, in the same way that the flu is, in the same way COVID is. Like, this is a real thing that is surging through my body that I have absolutely no control over. And unlike COVID, there's no freaking booster. Unlike the flu, there's no jab that I can take that will try, like, I can get my uterus removed. That seems a bit extreme, but like, it's participation in the conversation and an acknowledgement. And maybe it's also up to us, and certainly, I'll carry this forward into my next role, as I did in my last, which is, how else can I break that down as a woman in a position of leadership and power? So what else can I implement? What else can I do to change up that conversation? And I do feel guilty that towards the end of my last role, because of the confidence and the anxiety issues that I was facing, I did step back and I didn't push stuff that was important to me anymore, because it felt like it was too much. And I do feel guilty about that, because I know that I have an opportunity to affect change in roles that I'm in. I think we all do. And I think we owe it to the Lotties and the Elizas and the Amelias of the world, who are going to come behind us and who should walk into a role, and not just perimenopause, menopause, but fertility, periods, all those things that should be an open and honest conversation, and that you should be supported in the workplace for. So I owe it to them to win.
So, talked a lot about the sort of pitfalls of mental health, but I'm really interested in, and I think it's important to talk about, the actual help available. So one of the questions, I think this one came from you, Zara, was what help have you gotten? What help are you getting? What help do you know about?
Yeah. I'm probably I guess I'm lucky, because I've always kind of known how to ask for help, or what I'm asking for. Because of that, I guess I would be interested, Sean, as someone, I guess, who hasn't necessarily needed that. I mean, would you know if you suddenly did dip, or you suddenly did have some of the more gnarly mental health symptoms, would you know where to go, or what to do, or how to ask for help?
It's a difficult one, because I suppose it depends on how it presented in me mentally. Like, if it really just hit me bam and I immediately knew it was like a mental health thing, because it doesn't always hit the same for every person. So if it hit me in a way that I was like, oh, okay, this is a mental health thing, I need to get that sorted, then I would probably go to my GP and be like, I think I need like to speak to a therapist or, you know, some sort of help. But the problem with the NHS is that waiting lists are so long, which is something that we discovered when one of Pete's cousins was going through some mental health issues, and she was looking for a therapist, and the wait list was like some ridiculous, like 9 months or something. And it's like that doesn't help her now. And they were like, okay, we'll just put you on the wait list. And that was kind of it. Like, no other options were given. And I suppose unless you go privately. So that would be my first port of call. But if I was just to be put on a wait list, then what would I do? I don't know.
If I can piggyback onto this, because Zara, you know, Zara's recently, this is like a big reveal on a podcast, that when Zara, if she doesn't mind me saying, was going through some tougher times earlier this year, you sort of took a step back and said, I need some time and space. I'm really suffering with my mental health, you know, the anxiety, the panic attacks. So when I was pregnant with Lottie, so we're now a decade past that. What you've just said, Sean, where you're like, it doesn't hit everyone the same. You don't necessarily know what's going on, like, or what's happening. I was about I think I just found out I was having a girl somewhere about 4.5 months into the pregnancy. And I remember turning to Mike, my mum, and being like, something's not right. I don't know what it is. And the words that came out of my mouth were, I feel like I'm dying. Like, I genuinely was like, something's happening that's never happened in my whole life before. And I wake up in the morning and I feel like I'm spending the day. I couldn't think of any other way to describe it otherwise than I'm dying. Like, I can't play with Ted. I can't, you know, it was all consuming, like this, I'm going to die. Like being in, I don't know if anyone's had panic attacks. So I know you have, you know, I have, you know, where you're in that heightened state of and it was like permanent. And I remember Zara, I think had said earlier this year, it was like, you know, sort of like panic attack upon panic attack upon, and I'd sent this, and it's not something I've spoken to really, a really small, I only ever tell people when I think they should know or it would help them. And I sent Zara a video back in, was it February? I can't remember. And I was like, I haven't told you this. I'm going to tell you it all now. 10 years ago, I was diagnosed. I went to the GP. I rang him up and I said, my family are really worried about me. I'm really worried about me. I have no idea what's happening. And I went in and I saw this doctor and she was lovely. And out of the blue, and this is how surprising it was, she says, I'm going to do a mental health assessment on you. I was like, mental health's fine. I'm actually dying. Like, do the blood tests because that's what's going to tell you what's killing me right now because I'm actually dying. And I guess I was high risk. I was, you know, I was 4.5, 5 months pregnant probably by this point. And she does this mental health assessment questionnaire and she went, I'm diagnosing you today with moderate to severe depression and anxiety. And I was like, no, you're dying. I'm not like, I don't have depression. I maintain to this day it was anxiety and the anxiety was making me depressed as opposed to I was actually suffering with depression. I think it was the constant state of panic and fear was severely depressing. And she said, it's bad enough that we want to put you on medication. And I was like, I'm pregnant. She's like, we can put you on the safest medication for pregnancy. And we'll refer you to, I don't know if it's the same in Australia, but CBT, to cognitive behavioral therapy, as a first protocol. And then this, again, what you just said, Sean, is the NHS, there's a massive waiting list. There's a massive waiting list. Now, I put myself into that system knowing that I could get it on our health insurance. But came home and I said to my mom, I said, they've told me I'm depressed and like severely. She was like, yeah. And I was like, what? And she was like, you are. And I was like, no, like it was so baffling. I was like, what do you mean? And they said, they basically boiled it down to there was some hormonal massive imbalance in me that had triggered intense anxiety, absolutely intense anxiety. And like this thing constantly feeling that I was going to die. And that again, in turn, you know, made me depressed. And I was like, okay, well, let's fix it. And I was thinking, should I not medicate because I'm pregnant? And I remember being with my dad, and my dad was like, he was like, Sarah, like and I think I said this to Zara too. I was like, when I was talking to her, I was like, he's like, and I've said this subsequently to other people who have reached out, and I've been like, I know what you're talking about. Like if you're like if you've broken your leg, no one's going to be telling you to drag your broken limb around. Like, you've got a doctor there saying, this isn't going to fix it, but it's going to help the process quicker. And my dad, I mean, you guys know my dad, like, of all people, was just like, take the tablets, Sarah, like, get yourself better. Like, do what the doctors are telling you is going to go into the therapy, you know, go do that. And it was him really that made me go, okay, fine, I'll do it. And they put me on sertraline, which is, I think, different to the one, Zara, that you've been on, but it was the pregnancy safe, or the safer for pregnancy and breastfeeding. And I was on that. They then increased it slightly as sort of the pregnancy progressed. The NHS actually, I can't really fault them too much, because I got a phone call. The woman spoke to me and she went, we're bumping you up. You're a pregnant woman. Yeah. So I think that, you know, if you're
circumstances,
like really high risk, they will. But obviously then the health insurance kicked in straight away anyway. So I went into one-to-one cognitive behavioral therapy, and I had an entire year. And I think it's been a real journey, because, and I think Zara will agree with a lot of this, like, a problem with your mental health, anxiety, depression, whichever sort of like one you've got, or both, you know, it never goes away, and it's never going to go away. But what you do is you learn massively how to live with it, and you know what triggers it, you know what. And I remember my therapist, he was amazing, the first one, because I've done this twice. He said to me, he's like, I'm not going to fix you, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to make the absolute best out of this you can. And I think once you drop that sort of like, I need to get better, you know, it's sort of like a freeing moment in mental health anyway, where you just sort of go like, okay, like, you know, it is what it is. I'm not going to just, you know, get better. I'm just going to learn to deal with this, you know, in a better way. And it's, you know, it's up and down. It's up and down. Okay, so to end, and a good place I think to end would be, how do we as 40 and 41-year-old, but how do we as women of a perimenopausal age build up and strengthen our mental fitness? Or what do you do? Or what can we do? What should we do?
I know you all think I'm like the calm level one. And I was thinking about this the other day, obviously in preparation for this chat. And I do actually wonder if I am level, because I share everything. I don't bottle anything up.
Yeah.
Everything I'm feeling or thinking, or like thinking especially, like much to Pete's horror, I tell him everything. But I share, and I know there's the joke that, you know, I share about my poos with you poo chat, but I share absolutely everything with at least somebody in my life. I don't ever bottle anything up. I don't have secrets I don't think I have a secret that nobody knows. Like, at least one life will know something. And I don't bottle anything up. I do, if I'm having a shit time, I'll tell somebody that I'm having a shit time. And I do wonder if there's a level of like, I treat everyone in my life as a version of a therapist. I have a lot of this in form of friend and a husband. Like, am I just maybe just getting my own free therapy? And that's how.
Yeah. I think a few things along those lines is opening up, talking to others, and actually knowing that there are other people going through, because there's obviously a sense of safety in numbers, or just, you know, that the whole thing of you're not alone. And I think a lot of people probably do find is just making time for self-care. And I think that's what is so important in this day and age, in our age as well, is you have to carve out and protect the time for self-care. And I'm shit at it, and I know I am, but I'm going to have a hell of a lot of time on my hands in a few weeks to be able to do all that. And yeah, because I think I've seen a lot of people go through burnout, not a lot, but a handful of people burn out or just hit rock bottom. And I think there are, like you say, like Zara, like you said, being able to catch it before you get there is key. And it's everything, right? And it's exercise or whatever it is that makes you feel good and releases all, not just exercise, it's the, looking after your brain, having the sleep, all of these things. But as we all know, if you have a small 2-year-old, you're not in control of how much sleep you get.
No.
if you're shuttling children around, of course you're tired. So I think there's a lot that would be nice to do, but in reality, like, how are we able to do that? It's still something that I'm personally trying to work through as well. It's not easy.
No.
Nope.
No. It's for me, it's running.
Yeah.
Absolutely, like 100% it's running. Like, I don't listen to anything. God knows what I think about when I'm running, but it's just like a complete mental break. Like, I love it for, I don't care about calories or speed or whatever. It's like, I've got, half an hour, an hour and a half or whatever. And I go, and it's really hard to feel anxious when your heart's pounding and your wind's in your face. It just gives me that sort of like mental space. For me, it's definitely running. Exercise, yeah, absolutely. But for whatever reason, I find running just that real calm.
Yeah.
That's meditation, Sarah. What
Yeah.
you've just described. You're actually meditating.
Am
while
I?
you run.
I'm
Yeah. Yeah. Because you've cleared
It's the
your head.
repetition.
Yeah.
I think people have a really bad misconception about meditation in that it's like sit with your legs crossed and put your hands and stay on. Like, it's fun.
Not that. Yeah.
It can be for some people, but it isn't for me. Meditation for me is the repetition of something, whether it's counting, walking, breathing, like the box breathing is a form of meditation. It's actually just quietening your mind to a single thing.
Oh, there we go. That's what I'm doing.
And so what you've just described is actually a form of meditation.
I meditate.
Yeah, but and you're also filling your body with endorphins. You're also outside, so you're getting all that vitamin D. Like, it's actually great. And if my old lady knees and back could take it, I'd be doing it too. But I'm a walker now, not a runner. I think self-care is massive, but also, I've said it before and I'll say it again, we need to be so much kinder to ourselves so that we can recognize when we are going down the wrong path and be okay to say, something's not right. For some people, it's going to be running. For some people, it's going to be reading. For some people, it's going to be going for a walk. It's going to be really different, but, try and clear some space. And also just be okay with not being okay.
Yeah.
That's so true. Really freeing thought to just say, I'm not okay. I'm not okay, and I'm probably not going to be okay for the rest of the day. So, how do we wrap this up in a really cool way? Do you want to wrap it up, Zara? Yeah.
My goodbye is thanks for being so open and honest and vulnerable, guys. Like, it's not easy to talk about some of this stuff. It's even harder to know that's going to go out onto the big internet, the World Wide Web, and all the podcast platforms now, ladies,
all the podcasts
and YouTube.
And I think I've thought about that over the last couple of weeks since I first said to you, like, I want to tell Sean and Alicia just how bad things were, 10 years ago. God, it's a long time. But I'm not just telling you two. I'm
telling everyone.
Skyrocketing followers. No, but I'm telling. It's out there now that, and I think that's a good. I think it's a good thing.
It is a good thing
to let people know that things haven't always been, rosy, or not even rosy right now. Like, it's just, and that's okay.
Yeah,
and it is okay.
And you guys
got us and our books. That's how we wrap it up. Yeah. Baby bed.
I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Love you too.
For that.
Love you too. Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.